Hey, here we are this Tuesday, the 24th of May, 2016. I'm here with my friend Kamil Gregor, and he had requested that we have another hangout and talk about morality or moral code. And so I told him I didn't have time, and I said, well, no, I think I've got time. And then I realized later on, Kamil, that I really didn't have time, but I promised I'd do it, so I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah, that's all right. I think it's just because the time zones are so different. It's almost midnight here now, so
So Kamil is in the Czech Republic.
Yes, that's correct.
He's a lot smarter than me, but I enjoy having conversations with him and talking about these issues of ultimacy.
Yeah, this is the conclusion to the trilogy, right? That's supposed to be the climax.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if we need a conclusion. No, we can have many more as far as I'm concerned.
Well, we can always do prequels, right? Where it turns out that God has all along been just some microorganisms living in our blood or something like that, right?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna let you run it whatever you want here. I'm not even sure what. I'm sure we talked about something in the past, but I have a terrible memory and I forget.
Yeah, it's been so long.
Oh, wait a minute. How's your wife doing? I'm going to ask you that.
She's fine. She's fine. Doing good.
And you're doing okay?
Yeah, I've transitioned to a new job. Same position, but different company. So yeah, very well. Very well. Very good job. So far, I've been extremely happy with the conditions and all the other stuff. Yeah, that's probably one of the reasons why we kind of postponed the Hangout so many times now. I don't really know what the original topic was. What was the spark? I just know that we wanted to talk. I think it was something about, I commented under one of your posts about Sanctity of Existence, something to do with that. I've seen you in Hangouts with a couple of other people, and I'm honestly really interested in this concept. Because I have to admit, I've watched a lot of your Hangouts before we talked, right? And since, and the topic kind of seems to be always the same. It's either self-existence versus contingency or free will recently. That's also interesting, right? But this is, I don't know if this is new or it has definitely been less frequently discussed, right? Kind of with you. So I'm really interested in the concept, right? So I thought, I have some kind of idea what you mean, because you define it as life being human life supposedly, right, as opposed to, let's say, animal or life of other organisms being superior to non-life, right, non-existence, existence being superior to non-existence. But then I saw you in a couple of Hangouts where it got really weird, because suddenly intentions seem to matter. Quality of life, for example, seems to matter. And no, at some point you said something about it's better to pay lower taxes than higher because that's somehow tied to sanctity of existence. So I was kind of wondering if you could maybe flesh the concept out a bit, and if we could do that through some more specific moral dilemmas. So if we could kind of run through some scenarios and whether you would be able to show me how you would use the concept to basically advise you or guide you in deciding what's the moral course of action. Would it be fun?
Sure. Yeah, that's
all right.
Great.
So you're familiar with the trolley problems, right?
With the what?
Trolley problems. These are the hypothetical scenarios where you have a trolley and it can go various tracks, right? And you kind of hit the switch and it redirects the trolley to a different path, let's say, and that has a different consequences.
Mm-hmm.
So are you familiar with those?
I am not, no.
Okay, cool. So yeah, the classical scenario is that, there's a train It's going down a track, and for some reason the train is out of control, and you have no power to stop it, right? And the only thing that you can do is there's a switch in front of you, and you can hit the switch, and it will redirect the train, right? And so there are like two paths that the train can go. Either it can continue the path that's already going, or if you hit the switch, it will be redirected, right? You can't stop it. You can't do anything about it. The scenario is hypothetical, and it's constructed such that there aren't any other intervening scenarios, right? You can only decide whether you're going to hit the switch or not, and there are consequences based on that, right? So you can't, for example, scream to warn people. You can't stop the train. You can't, do other stuff, right? The question is, what would you do if the conditions were such that you can only choose to either hit the switch or not, right? Mm-hmm. So the classical example is, okay, there's a train. If it continues in its current path, it's going to run over someone who's tied lying in the tracks. But if you hit the switch, it's going to redirect to a different path that's clear. There isn't anyone, right? So obviously, the vast majority of people, knowing nothing else, would probably say, yeah, it's moral to hit the switch because it's preferable to save a person rather than let a person die, right? So do you understand that?
Yeah, but I don't. That's not the. You need to back up some and tell me why it is preferable to save the life rather than kill it.
Yeah, well, that's what I want to get into, right? I want to kind of run through a couple of these scenarios, and I was wondering if you could kind of show me how to apply this concept of sanctity of existence to make decisions in these scenarios.
But it seems like you've already made my point, right? Already made my point, right? You've already alluded to the fact that you would want to save the life, right?
Well, it like in this specific scenario, yeah, but no, then
so that's your baseline principle, is the sanctity of existence. That's your presupposition, right?
Well, it gets more complicated later, right?
But that's always the baseline. You're going to have difficulties and you're going to have dilemmas, and it's going to be difficult to figure out which one is the other. But that's always the unchangeable, right?
Well, yeah, that's why I want to have this conversation to kind of see how this principle is applied, right? So, like, if you use the sanctity of existence as this principle, then you would obviously hit the switch, right, to save the person. Mm-hmm. So what? And if there is so track A, that's the one that the train is currently on, has 3 people on it, and track B has just 1. Would you hit the switch?
I'm sorry, which one has 3?
The one that the train is currently going. Basically, like, would you sacrifice 3 people to save 1, or would you sacrifice 1 to save 3?
This exercise seems kind of silly.
Why?
Well, because you're assuming the foundation, but that's the very thing you need to prove. Why?
No,
why 1? Why is it a dilemma? This is my question.
Yeah, I'm just asking you.
You as an atheist need to tell me that, my friend.
No, I'm just asking you, like, if this is a foundation for morality.
Okay, well, who is the one person? I mean, this is just kind of a waste of time. Who's the one person?
Mm-hmm. Well, you don't know. It's just a random person, right? Let's say that you are a bystander, or you just happen to walk by, and you see that this is something that's going to happen.
According to my Christian principles, to save 3 lives is better than to save 1.
Cool. All right. I will take notes. So
you're a programmer, aren't you? Aren't you you're a real analytic?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So similar situation, except you're working in a hospital, and there are 3 people who need a transplant, right? Or they will die. You know that they will die, right? There was a car crash, and the homeless guy walks into the hospital, and you know that if you euthanize him, basically, and you harvest his organs, you're going to save 3 people. So by the same principle, you would sacrifice 1 to save 3, right?
No, I wouldn't, because God says that you shall not murder.
Well, what's the difference between the first scenario and the second?
Because I can't help the first scenario. The second one is I'm actively taking a life. You see the difference? I'm not determining the train. The train is already determined. It's going.
Yeah, sure, but in the second scenario, can't determine that the people are going to die. Also, that's
yeah, but I'm not killing them. I'm just withholding helping them. But I would be killing the homeless guy. I can't.
Yeah, but if you hit the switch in the first scenario, you will actively kill the one person also, right?
No, because I can't stop the train. All I'm doing is diverting it. I'm not saying I'm going to kill this person so that I can harvest something from that person to give to the other. I'm just trying to save 3 lives. You see what I'm saying? I'm not actively killing the person. The train is determined. When I'm killing the homeless guy, I'm not determined. I have the choice. I don't have to.
So let's say that in the train scenario, would it make any difference for you if instead of hitting the switch to redirect the train, you can save 3 people, but what you need to do is shoot a really fat person who's going to fall into the track, and he will stop the train?
You are so European.
No, I mean, like, that's actually a very common modification of the problem, right? Because
I would not. Again, my friend, I can't kill somebody.
Okay, so it actually, like, the way how you go about it, right? The action actually determines the outcome, right? So you're fine with hitting the switch, redirecting the train to run over 1 person to save 3, but outcome is produced by you shooting a guy, right? The outcome is the same. He's going to die. 3 people will live. The procedure is important somehow, right? Like hitting a switch is all right, pulling a trigger not, even though the outcome is the same.
Yes, I would say so.
Okay, how does it square with the sanctity of existence?
I'm sorry?
Like, how does it square with the sanctity of existence?
Let me say this. When I'm trying to decide, I mean, these dilemmas are just, to me, it's kind of fruitless. All I'm saying is, when I say that I am holding as a principle the sanctity of existence, I am simply walking under the commandment of the first and greatest commandment and the second commandment. In other words, the golden rule. First commandment is, you shall love the Lord your God, and which he is existence. So sanctity of existence is honoring the one who gives existence. And then secondly, to love your neighbor as yourself. So I want to treat my neighbor in a way that I would like to be treated. Those are going to be everything that I do is going to be, guided by those 2 principles. And there are difficult situations, and I may not have the answer to some, but that's not really the point. The point is, sanctity of existence is, and you've already conceded it with this whole line of argumentation. You're agreeing with me. You're just saying, it's kind of difficult to figure out. Well, I'm not arguing that sometimes it's difficult to figure out the right thing to do, but we are always looking toward the sanctity of existence when we are deciding what is right and wrong. That's the point.
So how did you apply the sanctity of existence so that in the first scenario, when you just need to hit the switch,
because I deliberated. The fact that I'm deliberating it says that I am trying to figure out what's right.
Okay, and what was the process of deliberation like? Because I don't, like, frankly, I don't see the
do.
But I don't understand. Yeah, but I don't see the difference, right? Like hitting a switch or pulling a trigger.
Why is it bothersome to you, Kamil?
No, I just want to. I mean, you've got an interesting approach,
right?
Yeah, I've got an interesting. You seem to have an interesting approach to morality.
No. Well, so
and I want to see how it works.
You are very interested as well. That's why you wanted to have this hangout, right?
Yeah, sure. You have a very interesting approach to morality, and I kind of want to understand it. Okay. So I want to see how it works, right? So if you could just say, like, because I don't understand the difference between the 2 situations, right? Like the outcome is the same. 1 person will die, 3 people will live. In the first scenario, you hit the switch and the train runs over the person.
You're saying I can't stop this. What about hitting a stop button?
There's no stop button.
Okay, so the train is going.
Yeah.
I have no power whether I kill the 1 person, right? It's not possible. Well, I have to, and I'm not killing him. Whoever the train is
someone's going to die, either 3 people or just 1, and you can decide.
Right.
And
if I'm shooting a fat person, I've got to pick up a gun and shoot them. The gun is not going towards them. The bullet's not going, and I got to divert the bullet one way or the other. You're saying I must pick up a gun and shoot a fat person. Why not a beautiful person? That's making us fun.
Well, it can be a beautiful person, right? The fat, it's kind of
It makes it easier.
the guy being fat makes it more plausible, because the point is that his body will stop the train, or it will divert it, right? That's the thing, right? Like the difference between these two hypotheticals is that in one scenario you just hit the switch. In the second scenario, you actually have to like kill him, right? Either like strangle him, push him over. Usually the situation is you can push him over. I find it's even more effective if it's a bit more graphic, right? So you just shoot him through the head, he falls over, and his body like physically diverts the train, so the three people will live, right? So yeah, sanctity of existence, as far as I understand it now, life being existence being preferable to non-existence. I don't really see how applying the same principle in these two situations leads to a different behavior, because the outcome is the same. One person will cease to exist, at least in his physical body, and three people will continue living. So could you maybe explain that?
Well, but here's the deal, Kamil. I have a moral imperative from my worldview. You do not, right?
Well, what do you mean? What you said that
you have a moral command with your scenario from your perspective. You have a moral command.
What do you mean by command?
Objective, something outside of you other than your personal preference. Do you have someone that tells you that you must value your neighbor?
Yeah, this would probably start a conversation about my view, right? We can do that at some other time, but I want this to be really focused on the concept of sanctity of existence.
That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to discover the sanctity of existence and see.
Yeah, as
to
I
look
said,
at all aspects of it, and you're saying no, we can't look at the aspects of not having a God, which is your view, and your view is the reason you're talking to me. And so here's where we are. We got to open up all the doors, my friend. We can't sit there and say, "Oh, we're not going to question my worldview. We're just going to talk about yours, even though my worldview makes no sense whatsoever. I'm just going to critique yours." And
well, I'm not critiquing it. I'm just asking questions, right? Like, I honestly want to understand how you apply this principle in actual moral situations, right?
Well, that's fine.
Because the thing is, right? Like, if we now start talking about
can you hold just a second? I got to take something out of the oven. Can you hold just 30 seconds? All right, thank you. Okay. All right, I'm sorry.
Yeah, what I was saying was that, yeah, I'm not necessarily criticizing it, right? I find it intriguing, right? So it's just kind of asking questions to see like how it works, right? And the thing is that if we started talking about my worldview, that would probably divert the conversation, and I don't want to do that at this point. I'm perfectly fine scheduling a hangout for tomorrow or any other day, where we can say right away, okay, we will only talk about my worldview and my approach to morality, and I won't critique yours.
Well, it wouldn't be very interesting because it wouldn't last very long.
Well, we would have to see. No, yeah. So back to the hypothetical, right? Like, so I don't really see how applying the same principle in these two situations, which are essentially identical, except by the only difference is the means how you prevent the three people from dying and how you end the life of the one person. I don't really see how applying this one principle to both situations leads to a different behavior, because the outcome is the same.
Kamil, it seems really simple to me. One situation is that there is a machine and I can't stop it. The other scenario is I pick up a machine and I kill someone. I don't understand why that's so difficult to understand. It seems really simple to me.
And how is the difference connected to the sanctity of existence?
One requires me to murder somebody by my own volition, I have to take up the instrument and kill them. The other one is I have no power over the instrument. The instrument's doing
actually,
it.
you're actually killing the person in both scenarios, right? I
No,
mean,
the inertia of the train is already going. The inertia of the bullet is not going until I say it's going.
Okay, sure. So let's say that the situation is the same, except the three people aren't there, right? So you see a train that's going to go a certain way, but you decide to hit the switch. The train will redirect, and it's going to kill someone. Did you just commit a murder?
No, because the inertia of the machine is already going.
So, and do you honestly think...
The bullet's in the air right now.
Really? Do you honestly think that if you hit the switch, to purposely hit the switch to redirect the train and kill a person, and you get arrested, you won't be sent to jail? Do you think that killing someone by redirecting a train to run over them isn't a murder?
I don't care what the law says. I care what God says. The law. We have all kinds of unjust laws.
Okay. So if someone sent you into prison after doing that, you think that would be unjust?
For trying to save one life. For killing.
No. If in the hypothetical situation where if you don't do nothing, nobody dies. But if you hit the switch and redirect the train, one person dies. So in that situation, you wouldn't murder anyone. What would that be? Like accidental death, or like?
What was my goal of redirecting the train in that scenario?
Well, let's say that you want to, that the guy was cheating on your wife and you really hate him and you want him dead.
Okay, so I would go to jail for that. It'd be murder, right?
And would that be morally justified, the punishment?
No.
No?
No.
So you killing the person by redirecting the train wouldn't be immoral.
It would be immoral.
Oh, it would be immoral.
I thought you said moral. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay, so intentions matter also, right? So
intention is everything.
Okay. So it's not only how the person died, but also your intentions.
Yes, always.
Okay, so back to the original, the two hypotheticals, right? Like killing someone by redirecting the train, and killing the person by shooting them. The intention in both situations is identical. You want to prevent the three people from dying, right? So the only difference is the means by which you do that. And we've just now established that you actually kill a person. You are responsible for their death in both situations. It doesn't matter, like the fact that you hit the switch instead of pulling a trigger is of no consequence. Because if it was, you wouldn't be a murderer in the third hypothetical when there is just one person and the three people aren't there. So again, like
yes, because I'm trying to take a life in the in that last scenario you offered, but in the other one I'm trying to save three, right?
And in both situations you're trying to save three. In one you just hit the lever or hit the switch, and in the second one you pull the trigger. So I still don't understand how you get a different outcome by applying the sanctity of existence principle to both.
Because as I stated, the bullet is not moving until I set it in motion, right?
Yeah, sure. So what? I mean, if you don't hit the switch, the train will.
The switch is not changing the fact of the inertia of the train. It changes the direction, but it doesn't change the inertia.
Yeah, and it changes the direction so that the consequence of your action is a person dying. It's just like.
And what is my motive in that? What was my motive?
Well, the motive is the same in both situations. You're trying to save three people.
Okay.
So what accounts for the difference? Like what causes one situation to be moral and the other one immoral?
Because one, I am purposefully killing somebody, and the other one, I'm just trying to save lives.
But you're trying to save lives in both, right? In both situations, the three people are saved. So you're actually save three people in both situations. So the motivation is identical. The only difference really is like for some reason you don't like pulling a trigger, but you're fine with hitting a switch. Everything else is identical.
Because the bullet has no inertia until I set it in motion. Do you not understand that?
Okay.
I think you're just repeating something somebody told you, and it's like skipping it. You're like, why can't I understand that? I don't know. The bullet, they're completely different situations. The bullet is not set into motion until I set it into motion. So we've got two bodies moving in that with the gun. Okay, we've got the train, and then I'm setting another body in motion to take a life with my hand in order to save the others. And I don't want to do that. I can't stop the train. So for me, I'm not gonna kill somebody.
Okay, so as long as as long as a person dies as a result of a moving train that has already been in motion before you intervened,
right?
There isn't any configuration or any situation where you would be a murderer, right? Like
I don't know. I mean, these questions can be very difficult, and I'm not saying I know all the answers.
Because we've just went over one, right? Like where there's
and that one's easy for me.
Yeah, right. There's
I'm not
a guy.
Saying they're all easy.
Yeah, there's a guy, and you want him dead, so you hit the switch and you send a train his way, right? If what you're saying applies here also, you wouldn't be responsible because he was killed by a train that was already in motion. It had inertia. So either you wouldn't be murdered. No,
because I have control. I have control over that train. But
yeah,
if
sure,
it's going to kill both ways,
mm-hmm.
I can't stop the train. And if there's no life in danger one way and there's one life in danger another way, and I hit the switch, it's the same as pulling the trigger, right? I'm killing him.
Yeah, okay. So as long as if at least one person will die, then it doesn't matter how many people will die.
And the malice in my heart is operative there.
Yeah, so the malice kind of trumps the fact that the murder weapon is a train that was already in motion. Well, no, so that kind of takes precedent over that factor.
No, the operative fact, my friend, is the intent of my heart. In the first one, I'm just, if I were to shoot the fat person or whatever, then I'm going to, my goal was to save lives supposedly, but I don't believe that's right. And the other one, my pure motive was to murder that individual. And it matters that they had done something unjust to me, but it's not justified.
Yeah, okay, so the kind of your intentions take precedent in that situation over the fact that the murder weapon will be a train that was already in motion.
Well, yes, an inanimate object is an inanimate object, including a train. It has inertia, but that inertia was not purposed for killing, but the situation arose where it would take life. So, I mean, you got to take all those factors into consideration.
Okay, cool. So, and how do you derive this from the sanctity of existence? Like how? Because I don't understand the process where step one is the sanctity of existence. Then there is a bunch of steps. And
the sanctity of existence only comes when the dilemma comes. Don't you agree?
You tell me.
It's your concept. You've got to make a decision.
Well, it's your concept. So does it only enter into consideration when there's a moral dilemma?
Well, think for yourself. I don't have any. I'm driving my train down the road,
I would like to think. I would like to think
then,
about it, but I don't understand it. I need to understand it first.
I don't know why it's so hard.
Yeah. So, I mean, as I was saying, I don't really see the process that has the sanctity of existence as step one. That has some steps that I don't understand now. And the last step is, in this situation, I would pull the trigger. Or I wouldn't pull the trigger, but in a different situation, I would hit the switch. Although in both situations, one person dies, 3 people live. So could you maybe explain your kind of decision making, or you kind of this kind of mental procedure? Can you go like step by step? You start by the sanctity of existence, and then you do what?
And sanctity of existence is loving God and loving my neighbor.
Okay, go
What does
on.
God call me to do to my neighbor, first of all? Well, first of all, I mean, I want to, out of my love for him, to do what he has called me to do. And then I want to love my neighbor because that is what he has called me to do.
Okay, go on.
So, for example, let's take a scenario that might be more helpful for you.
No, could you tie it to the scenario that I was proposing? Because I want you to I want you to kind of show how this leads to you deciding not to pull a trigger, but deciding to hit the switch, right? I kind of want you to connect all the dots for me, because I really want to know how this works, how this is like an applicable principle in these kind of situations, right? So so far you kind of expanded on the principle, provided some additional information, but I would still like you to go all the way and actually connect it to the hypothetical that we are discussing.
So what would you like me to say? I mean, we've discussed this several different ways.
No, I still don't see how the commandment, treat your neighbor as you would treat yourself, actually translates or transforms into you.
Okay, here, it's really simple. All right, let's say you're an overweight person and you're standing on the track and there's a train coming at you, and the driver of the train has the opportunity to shoot you so that he can divert the train. Would you like him to do that? It's really simple.
Yeah, but that's true about the other scenario also, where you're happy to hit the switch, right?
Answer the question. Would you like him to shoot you?
Well, that's that's inconsequential. What if I was?
You asked me to explain, and I explained, and you say, "Well, no, that's fucking no."
Well, yeah, but but if this is what accounts for the difference, it's present in both situations, right? Like, let's say that the fat guy doesn't want to be shot. Well, in the second situation, the one person that will be run over the train, if you decide to hit the switch, may also not like it, right? So you're actually going to harm your neighbor in both situations. So
right.
What accounts for the difference?
Well, one is if the train is diverting, it doesn't really matter. If I were on the track and there were three people on the other track, and I'd said, and I would wish that the guy would run me over to save the other lives.
Okay,
but I would not want him to shoot me.
Why not? What's the difference?
Again, because he is.
If you are the person who's going to die, then you may want to sacrifice your life to save the three people in both situations.
Yeah, I don't have a definitive answer, Kamil. All I'm saying is that's what I would do.
That's all right. I mean, if you don't have the definitive answer, that's fine. Okay, so does consent, for example, enter into the equation? Let's say you have the same hypothetical, either three people die or one person lives, right? But let's say that you can actually shout to the three people and ask them, hey, are you all right if I hit the switch? But they say, no, we are fine with dying. Like, all three independently give you consent to sacrifice their life in order to save the one person. Would you then hit the switch?
Hit the switch to save the one person?
Basically, the situation is either you do nothing and the train will kill three people, or you hit the switch and it will just kill the one. But the difference is that you are positive that the three people actually consented to sacrificing their life for the one.
Mm-hmm.
Would that make a difference?
Probably. I'd probably go for the three then. Kill the three.
So you would kill the three because they are happy with it. I mean, they wouldn't probably be happy with it.
Doing to others, you'd have them doing to you.
Okay. So let's say that the situation is the same, but you accidentally do the opposite of what you intended, right? So you think that hitting a switch is going to do one thing, but it actually does the other one. It does the other thing. Does this also enter into the equation? Like, for example, if you intend to kill just one person, but you accidentally kill three, you wouldn't be responsible, right? Okay, so these kind of things, intentions, let's say, do matter. Awesome. Okay. And a bit different situation. Again, either 3 people die or 1 person dies, right? But the difference is, now instead of you, there is someone else that's going to make the decision to hit the switch or not. But the thing is, the person hits the switch, so the 1 guy gets run over, right? So he saves 3, but the 1 person dies. But the problem is, now the difference is that the person who made the decision didn't decided to hit the switch in order to save 3 people. His motivation was to actually kill the 1 guy because he wanted him dead for some reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does this make a difference?
Yeah.
Because the outcome is the same. 3 people live and 1 person dies. The only difference is the
But remember, I said that it's operative. One of the most important characterization or variables is motivation.
Okay, so he would be then. It would be immoral.
Sorry.
Yeah, is it all right?
Yeah, I just hung up.
Yeah. So, if the situation was identical and the only difference was that instead of you doing the killing, there would be a different person with different motivations, that would make a difference, although the outcome is the same.
I'm sorry.
Do you want to take it?
No, it's from out of town. I'm just going to put it to voicemail. Hopefully they won't call you.
Okay. So intentions do seem to make a difference, although the outcome is the same. Interesting. So how about identical situation, but the outcomes are either 1 person will live, or the 3 people will be run over. They will live, but they will be paralyzed for life. Like they will be paralyzed from neck down. What would you do?
I don't know.
All right, that's fine. Does sanctity of existence helps you in any way?
Well, sure. It's going to determine that I'm going to make a decision. I'm going to worry about it. That's what I said. That's the whole reason we're talking about this, because we both assume the same thing, that existence is special. Okay. We may come to different conclusions, but we're all deliberating.
Okay, but you can't actually use the concept to tell you, okay, this is the moral thing to do for me.
No, because I'm really bored right now. This is not.
Okay, and if you weren't bored, is it possible in principle?
What's that?
Is it possible at least in principle? Does it have the?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess you could come up. Yeah, there's always a right answer to everything, but whether there's a right answer, boy, all kinds of stuff today. I've got a Rambler alert from my phone. Anyway, so yeah, in every situation there's a right and there's a wrong, but it's not always easy to figure out.
Okay, but you don't want to right now think about.
No, it just doesn't. I'm really bored right now, Kamil.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put this one on my.
I kind of understand. I get bored also, obviously, but you have to understand that it's not making a very compelling case for your worldview. Right?
I don't think you're making a very compelling challenge, my friend.
Well, it's not a challenge. I want to just understand what you mean.
Well, here's what we got to do, and this is what you don't want to do. Let's put it into counter-distinction to what you believe in your justification. You have none. That's why you don't want to go where you're at. Mine's very compelling. That's why I believe it. Now, you don't have any justification.
But if you're actually encountered with the actual problem where you need to make a decision, you don't do that.
I'll make that decision when I get there. How many scenarios could I sit there and spend every moment of every day trying to figure out scenarios? What's the right thing to do? I got bigger fish to fry.
To be honest, I was kind of thinking about it. To be honest, I was kind of thinking about it before we went live, and I actually wrote down 37 different scenarios.
You are so mathematical. It's funny.
They get really interesting. Some of them involve cannibalism. Some of them obviously involve differences between men and women. Would you, for example, if you had to make a decision, would you save a woman instead of a man? It involves children versus adults. young people versus old people that are terminally ill, surgeons versus just construction workers, mentally disabled versus not mentally disabled, innocent people versus murderers. That's also interesting. Like, is it better to kill one innocent person in order to let 3 murderers live?
Okay. Kamil, what you need to do is you need to start having children so you can have something to do with your time.
Yeah, I've got that
Productive.
also. Like, for example, would you sacrifice your own daughter in order to save 3 people? That gets interesting, right? Then I've got obviously lying to hide the Jews from the Nazis. That's a very popular one, and various modifications of that. Like, for example, how severe the consequences would have to be in order to justify lying. For example, is it moral to lie to hide a wife from an abusive husband? Is it all right to torture one person to save many? An interesting one is it more moral to send someone to hell over just, let's say, erasing them from existence? Like, if you had the power to choose, okay, I can either send this person to hell or I can just erase him from existence, right?
Okay, so you're presupposing that there's something wrong, though, right?
Well, what if it was just a random person that you don't know anything about?
I'm saying, the very fact that you pose the question proves the conclusion. One or the other can be justified, right?
And what would be
rubbing somebody out for doing something wrong? What is wrong, Kamil?
No, I mean, what would be the answer in your worldview? Let's maybe talk about this one a bit. Let's say, okay, there's a hypothetical situation again. There's a completely random person, a stranger, you don't know anything about them, right? And you have to make a choice, and you can only do one of 2 things. Either you send them to hell, where they will be tortured forever, or you can actually just erase them from existence. They will cease to exist. Is there a moral difference? And if so, what's the morally preferable alternative? What
if I said it's wrong to punish people, period?
Well, you have to choose either one or the other. Like, the point of the hypothetical is, what would you do if these were the only options, right? Obviously, you can't introduce a third option because then you're not talking about the hypothetical anymore.
Okay, but you're coming up with a scenario, right?
The reason why I wrote this one down specifically, it was based on my initial understanding of what the concept of sanctity of existence entails. Because when people ask you to define it initially, you say, well, existence is preferable to non-existence, right? And you kind of expand on this as the conversation continues, and ultimately it goes to areas like taxation, for example. So I kind of thought, okay, well, is really like existence always preferable to non-existence? And obviously the most extreme case is non-existence on one hand versus existing but being tortured for eternity, but like the worst way that's possible, right?
Okay.
So which one is preferable?
Sure. Well, what you've got to do is we're not God. And so remember what I said, there are 2 principles. The sanctity of existence is the sanctity of God's existence, and then the sanctity of man. So from God's perspective, that is going to be definitive because he is the one that is definition for all contingency. So for you to say, oh, well, one is worse than the other, one is better than the other, you're presupposing that there's such a thing as wrong to begin with, even to make the deliberation. Do you see that?
Well, I'm asking you about your worldview, though, right? Like, I'm asking you, in your worldview,
if God is holy and he is eternal, and if it is true, objectively speaking, that to sin against a holy creator is an eternal sin that merits, because you got to have him to have any kind of law, then it merits eternal torment, then of course it's the best thing to go and to be tormented forever. Not for your happiness, for his glory. Remember, your happiness is predicated under the umbrella of his glory, of his happiness.
Okay, and what if the person was a Christian, and these were the only 2 options? What if you remove the
hell, because Christians are Christians? They have Christ's righteousness imputed to them. They cannot go to hell.
Okay, so you would just make them cease to exist?
No, if I were God, I could not cast them to hell because their judgment had been fulfilled, and I am
So we would
just.
just make them cease to exist if these were the only options.
God doesn't have any options. God is the one who gives
No,
definition.
but in these hypothetical situations, you have these two options. So I'm asking you: is existence always preferable, no matter what the conditions are?
Absolutely.
Or
When
is it
God is the one who exists.
Is it the case that there could be conditions where a human being exists, but it suffers so much, he or she suffers so much, that it's actually better if they didn't exist? Or is it just an absolute that, like, no matter like what you experience, the mere fact that you exist is enough to make moral
again, my preference and my existence is under the rubric or the auspices of God's existence. So my personal preference, I mean, sometimes I don't want to go to the, say, for example, here's an example where I have to go to the doctor and I have to endure pain for some procedure or something like that. My not wanting that pain in the long term is a good thing because it would save my life. So seeing suffering for me in the long term gives glory to God, then it's good in the long run.
What if it was just a completely pointless suffering? Because in your hypothetical,
there can't be pointless suffering because everything must be determined.
Yeah,
otherwise it wouldn't be.
In this hypothetical, the suffering is kind of it kind of pays off, right? Because there's like a health benefit, right? But what if you just have a terminal disease and you suffer, and like it actually just makes you worse? Doesn't have any like side benefit.
Through that terminal, if you had terminal illness, that brought you to repent of your sins and receive righteousness and eternal life.
And what if you don't?
Then you would just receive judgment for your wickedness because you were born wicked.
Okay, so if a person...
So that glorifies God, that glorifies existence.
Okay, and if that person just suffers and doesn't do that, isn't it preferable for them not to exist rather than just suffer?
No, because if it glorifies God, again, we're under the auspices of God's glory. If it glorifies God to manifest his judgment on wicked people, it is a good thing because he himself is the foundation for determining good or bad. Okay.
And if you were able to go back in time, would you kill Hitler?
If I were to go back in time and kill Hitler, I don't know. I don't know that.
Yeah, that's a really tricky one, isn't it? Like, it gives me a pause. Because the thing is, like, in unpredictability of the future also enters into moral decisions, doesn't it? Like, well, if you let's say that you kill Hitler and prevent the Holocaust, what if the Soviet Union takes over Europe, and in the end you have much more people killed, right?
Right.
That's feasible. So yeah, but again, like, what if we don't know whether we would kill Hitler or not? I think that our like moral compass is somehow lacking, because that's a really...
Well, of course it is. We're not omniscient. We don't know everything. Of course. Are you saying that somehow because we're not perfect, there's no such thing as moral code?
No, I just thought that you had this concept of sanctity of existence.
Here's the thing. You know who Dietrich Bonhoeffer is?
Who?
Dietrich Bonhoeffer?
No, I don't think so.
Look him up, read about him. He was a Christian, a Lutheran pastor who lived in Nazi Germany, and he tried to murder Hitler, and he was a failure, and he was captured, and he died in prison just before liberation, just before the end of the war. And people are controversy. Was he right? I'm of the thought that he was wrong in what he did, but many people, especially Jews, really
tell that to the Jews, you know. Tell that to all the people that lost their families in the concentration. Right. That could have been prevented. No, I would love to read that, but I'm afraid I've got my reading.
No, I'm going to just look up on Wikipedia, just see who he is.
Oh, yeah. All right. I'm wondering which one we should do, which one of these we should do.
You got 10 minutes, and I'm being generous because I've got
killing someone not knowing if he's the killer, right? Like, you're a sniper, and there's a hostage situation, and you know that in 5 seconds a guy will come out of a a building where hostages are being held, and he's either a killer or he's the hostage. And if he's a killer, he will detonate a bomb that will kill a bunch of people. But if he's a hostage, he won't do anything, right? Would you just shoot the person, not knowing if he's a killer or a hostage?
Am I acting as an agent for my state that is fighting against this other state, or am I just an individual?
You are a police sniper, and you were called to a hostage situation where a crazy person has a bomb, and he also holds people hostage, and you know. Okay, but you don't know if he's a killer or a hostage. You just see a guy coming out of the building, and
no,
you
I wouldn't
need to
shoot
make. Okay, so even though there's a possibility that you not shooting will result in more death, because if he in fact is the killer, he'll just blow himself up and kill a whole bunch of people.
No, I wouldn't shoot him.
What would you say if then that's what would happen? What would you say to the people that lost their loved ones then?
I would say I agree with you. I mean, what do you want me to say? What do you want me to say to the?
I'm just curious, right? I'm just curious because, like in these situations, there's usually it's like there isn't any clear win scenario, right? Like somebody always.
Well, sure there is. You're conceding my argument again, Kamil, by saying that we need to deliberate this.
Well, yeah, sure.
The fact that I'm ignorant about it says nothing about the fact that sanctity of existence is the foundation for determining.
And is it though? Because I've a number of times you were.
Well, why do you have a problem with my view?
Well, I've thought that when I present an actual scenario where you need to make a moral decision, you will say, okay, let's start with the sanctity of existence. From it follows this, that, and the other.
Not
And
necessarily.
therefore, we can determine that this is wrong and this is right. And I've presented you with a number of scenarios where you didn't do that. So I'm kind of wondering, okay, if the sanctity of existence is a thing, what is it good for? If it can't
Kamil,
actually...
Why are we deliberating this? Why is it a big deal to you?
Well, because I think it's fun.
Yeah, but is it important to you to talk about this?
Oh, not really. That's what I do in my free time.
Well, no, it is. You just don't want to admit it. This is a very important issue. We need to care about our neighbors. We need to care about our lives.
I think
and the very fact that you're making something about it says that you agree with me.
I think you don't really care about it. You just don't want to admit it.
I don't care about it?
Yeah, you just don't want to admit it.
I don't care about the sanctity of existence?
Yeah, you just don't want to admit it.
So when I'm walking across the street with my child in my hand and a car comes barreling toward them, I don't care if that child lives?
It was just a joke. I was kind of...
I'm just like, what is going on?
No. I mean, you said that basically you know better what I think that I do, right? So I kind of...
You don't have a reason. I have a reason. You're piggybacking off of my view while you deny my rational foundation, and I laugh at you. I say, you are a rube, my friend. And you're trying to criticize me, and I just laugh.
All right. That's. I mean, if you want someone to educate you, you don't really. You let them talk and explain their point of view, right? You don't really get to talk about yours. That's not how the process works, right?
I get this more and more because my opponents just can't deal with the issue, so they say, "Oh, well, they're not talking about me." Just like Bert. Bert did that in Hangout. It was hilarious.
Could that be the case? Maybe. That one of the reasons why people insist on talking about your worldview so much is because
they don't have one.
No, it could be also because at some occasions you try to turn it around and expose them.
Well, sure I do. My whole point, Kamil, what I'm trying to do in all my exchanges is to find out what's true. I don't care about winning the argument. I care about finding what is real and corresponding my life to that. You guys don't care about that. All you care about is atheism. You're passionate about atheism and find some way to justify yourself, and that's what I don't respect.
Okay, and how do you know that's the case?
Because you won't talk openly about it. You won't talk about your view. You won't let it be seen. Oh, no, I'm just talking about you. Bert did the same thing in our last hangout. He said, oh, my view is completely contradictory. That doesn't matter. And I'm like, what are we talking for? What's the whole point?
Yeah, well, that was just for the sake of the discussion, though, right? Like that's. I mean, I can concede either some of your positions or even all of them for the sake of the discussion, right? That's legit. It doesn't. No, I mean, it doesn't. It doesn't show the person being dishonest. It's just what you do, right? It's like one of the procedures for discourse, for discussion, right? I mean, if you find that like appalling for some reason, I don't see why.
Okay. Well, anyway, Kamil, I need to get going. I've got to get some.
But would you be willing to have another chat where we would just talk about my moral framework the whole time without ever like going back to yours? Because I mean, you've now said, well, all these atheists, let's.
Kamil, that's what I'm finding with every one of my interlocutors these days. I'm kind of up to my eyeballs. Number one, the atheists are such filthy people, and they think they're great enlightened. And then has anyone ever offered you a conversation where they said explicitly, okay, we will only talk about my worldview? I don't want that, Kamil. I want to have an open discussion where we can compare our perspectives. Because I don't think it'd be much of a conversation.
Okay. So you don't want to just talk about yours, but you also have a problem with me talking about mine.
I want to talk about both.
Sure. So do you want to have that discussion?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Cool. So let's talk later and schedule a time.
Okay, that sounds good.
Cool. So I'll probably let you go now.
Okay. Yeah, it's probably about midnight there, isn't it?
It's exactly midnight.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Kamil. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're always very kind. And it's spirited. I'm not upset, but I am reaching a point now where in my interactions with my friends on G+, it's like I cannot understand why people find atheism so compelling. It's not very rational. The atheist people are filthy people. The stuff they think about, the stuff they talk about, they're like bottom feeders of society, in my opinion. I'm thinking, what do you have to offer the world? Do you think you're so smart? And I'm not talking about you necessarily specifically, because I don't really know you that well, but the G+ community overall, what do they have to offer the world for the great utopia that they say that they have? I don't see it. I want to have integrity with my life. I want people to challenge me to excellence. And these guys cannot do it.
I'm wondering, do you own a gun?
I do not. Well, my dad
that's probably good. Anyway, okay. We'll talk to you next time.
Okay, thanks, Kamil. Appreciate it. Greetings to your wife.
Bye.
All right, bye.